Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Rates and Lanes podcast. I am your host, Rico Muhammad. I'm going to be joined shortly by my co-host, Mr. Chuck Snow. Tonight, I know we were supposed to have on friend of the show, David Owen this evening. Something came up and he was not able to join us tonight, so we're going to try to reschedule to get David on. So we pinch hitting for David tonight. We have our good friend, resident economist, Mr. Michael Lampel, that'll be joining us in David's stead, and we are actually going to kind of pick up a little bit on the conversation that we had the last time that Michael came on with us, and also talk a little bit about what's going on in the industry with all of the different turmoil and topsy-turviness and uprooting things that are going on in the industry, and how this is being affected, how much the industry is going to be affected by the economy. So if you have questions, comments, concerns, by all means, participate. You can join us via chat. You can jump down in the chat and type your question, and we'll definitely try to weave you into the conversation. Do us a huge favor if you would. Please like, share, and subscribe. Hit the little bell icon notification if you're watching us on YouTube. That allows you to get notified whenever we go live or we upload new content to the YouTube channel. That helps us out. It costs you absolutely nothing. It's free to do. So if you would, please do that for us. That helps us get into the broader YouTube algorithm so we can try to get the show out to as many people as we possibly can. And with that being said, I think I covered all of the bases. Let me welcome my co-host, Mr. Chuck Snow, in. Chuck, good evening. How are you?
We're doing well, Rico. You know what? We changed lanes tonight a little bit, and I want to publicly thank our good friend Michael Lampel for stepping in. Last minute, Dave Owen was not able to make it. Something came up, and he called me just before showtime, and Mike just stepped right in. So, Michael, thank you very much for just coming to bat for us. Appreciate it.
Well, we ain't gonna keep talking about him, and we ain't got him up here. Let's put him.
There he is.
You don't want me. No. Turn it off. Turn it off. I'm going to scare the trucks. The trucks are going to start running away.
This is going to be an ad for the Hair Club for Men.
Right.
All of us. Who can bring me a skid? Like I need a skid. I need a skid of Rogaine. Who can get it for me?
You think that shit really works?
Rubbing shit on your head doesn't work.
I know. We've all tried it. Michael, a lot has happened. Even since the last time you were on, which is just probably about 3-4 weeks ago. Yellow finally died, and which was they probably had the longest corporate illness of anybody I've ever seen. They lasted almost 20 years under duress, and now and a lot of smaller carriers have gone under, and now in this last week, a company called Convoy, they've gone under, and which is it's never good to see, and a lot of people will get hurt. What the hell's going on with the economy in your opinion? Because you got a good pulse on it. You've been studying this stuff. The rest of us, we kind of bump in the middle of the night, read stuff, but we don't know we don't read in between the lines the way you can.
Well, I mean, it's interesting you say that, because let's put it on both ends, right? On one side, you got a hard asset company that went out of business. On the other side, you got a technology trucking business went out of business.
Yep.
Right.
So when you look at that, go, hold on a second. If the trucking company is going out of business and the technology is going out of business, what's left?
Right? Yeah.
Right. So I mean, again, I think the future belongs to the small trucker.
I agree.
I believe the small to medium-sized trucker is going to benefit in the longer term. I think as I said to a lot of the listeners a lot of times, you're going to have to do technology. I know you don't like it, but you're going to have to do it, because the ones where the trucking where the guys who are buying trucking can communicate and cut costs further, you can win if you implement simple technology. You don't need fancy technology. You really don't need fancy technology, right?
Well,
So
No, it's
you
gotten
can
cheaper. There's no
implement.
two doubts about it.
Well, I mean, look, you could use. Listen, I run my company on Google Apps. You know how cheap Google Apps is?
Yeah.
I mean, you could literally, guys, you could literally go to GoDaddy, sign up for a website. They'll give you the sign up for a domain. They'll give you the website. They'll give you the email. You go to Google. You simply type into Gmail the name of the company. It connects now to your website. Build up a form and start receiving messages inbound. I could tell you right now, you could have a website built fully automated for less than $2,000.
Wow.
Okay, line it up to a CRM system like Zoho, not Salesforce. Salesforce too comp. Zoho is great. $55 a month for a CRM account.
Wow.
Hire somebody
Yeah.
for a few $100, and you got a CRM system that's functioning. So in less than $5,000, you got a fully automated trucking company.
hmm.
Yeah. That is cheap. Now, let me ask something. What
So,
about, we're hearing a lot about hacks and stuff like that. Just a couple of weeks ago, a big LTL carrier in the US, Estes, they were shut down because hackers got in. So how can a little guy that's going to put his world up in technology, how can he or she protect themselves?
And this is funny. I got to tell you. Do you know why I use Google Apps?
No.
Because they are my security. You'd have to hack into Google.
Oh, okay.
So all my emails and everything comes from Google. I use Google Sheets on one side. So basically, Google is my security. Now, nothing is impervious, but if you just follow some basic precautions. But I think it's going to belong to the small trucking guy who can basically, unless you have like 5,000 clients, but if you're a small to medium-sized trucker, what have you got? 50 clients, 80 clients that you routinely go on a regular basis?
Right. So let me ask you a dumb
Rico, am I right?
question. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Michael, let me ask you a dumb question. Could a company like Estes, who's I'm just using them as an example, could they be using Google?
Yeah, Google's massive. Google's massive. I mean,
So,
you could build your company on it, right? Where a lot of the breaches come is, there's a lot of emails back and forth,
right.
right? You get client emails, you get carrier emails, they could
Sure.
be hacked. So you got to make sure your virus software is up to date. You got to make sure everything is up to date so that you don't get hacked. But, again, if you get like, 50, 80, 100 clients, chance they're not really paying attention to you. To
Right.
a company like Estes, they are because there's so much money flowing in and out. They want to
Right.
get a hold of the data so they can blackmail them with the data. They'll do ransomware on their
Right.
systems.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't worry about the small to medium sized guy because with just some virus software, it'll detect whether you're bringing in a virus. But I think you can't avoid it. There's no way to avoid this.
No,
Right?
I
You
agree.
better get automated. And remember, I mean, look, you guys know this is better than I do, which is if you got a company that's doing $100 million in revenue and their freight costs are $3 to $5 million a year, if they can take 10% out of that, they'll kill anybody to take it.
Yeah.
Right? So if it's a $500,000 a year savings and they only have to implement $50,000 for technology that gets them $500,000 of savings, they'll do it.
Yeah. Of course.
But
So, Michael, let me ask you another question. Speaking of small truckers, I have
yes,
had an idea since I think Rico and I talked about it when I first met him about 10 years ago. And the idea is to get a group of small truckers that do basically the same, like you have a group of reefer truckers, let's say, or a group of flatbed truckers, and you
yeah,
you join together as a cooperative so that you become a fleet. So now all of a sudden you can buy your fuel cheaper. You can go to your big steel customers or even your big brokers as a group. You can buy your insurance cheaper. Everything becomes cheaper. Do you see that as feasible? as a
I do,
cooperative.
so long I do, so long as you set up the processes right at the beginning. So I do believe entirely in 5 or 6 or 10 guys, not too big because then it gets totally unmanageable, right?
Right. You need at least,
Totally
I
unmanageable.
don't know what the current, it's at least 10 guys or 10 carriers or 10 trucks in order, it's somewhere between 10 and 20 to become a fleet. I don't know where the number is right now. It used to be 10. Now I understand if one of our listeners knows uh, the current appetite for risk from insurance companies, just let us know. But it's somewhere between 10 and 20 trucks. But this has been a vision of mine for years for small
I think
carriers.
I think it's a very good idea, but I'll tell you how I would do it, which is interesting you say that. Number one, as a group, you have to decide who in your group is very good at financial management and let them do it. Right? Because what you're doing is you're not you got to also pull your resources together. That
Of
means
course.
a central location to pay out of a central location. You got to pull your resources, and you want one person who's going to be really good at organizing the paperwork, organizing that, right? And it works, by the way, regionally. So I think it's not going to work as a national. I don't think you're going to be able to do a co-op, pull together a team of producers, one in California, one in North Carolina. I think you got to
Right.
do it as a local, right? Because then if one guy's got 50 clients, the other guy's got 50 clients, the other guy's 50 clients, you pull it together, you got 500 clients,
That's right. Now, what
right?
I was thinking is rather than take one of the group to do the books, you hire a CFO because
Outsource
all
it.
of a sudden you've got, all of a sudden
I
you've
wouldn't do
got
that.
20 or 30
I wouldn't do
trucks,
that. I would
or
do
you
that.
hire
You,
there's a company, and we had them on the show one night, um, and they're an accounting firm, and they basically work for small trucking companies as a CFO, like a third party CFO.
well, yeah, but you see, CFOs are expensive. I mean, what they're looking for is an accounts
This is a
payable
third
system and
party,
a
Mike.
bookkeeping
This
system.
isn't so that
Oh, I
they
get it.
just,
But those guys aren't cheap either. Those guys aren't cheap either.
well, I'm sure they're not cheap, but it's cheaper than having a full time CFO that you probably don't need.
No, I don't think you need a full-time CFO. I think what you're
No.
looking for is good accounting. Like you
Yeah.
definitely need good accounting. And that's why I said you pick somebody in the group who is very organized and say, okay, you're responsible for the accounts payable. So you take care of what's got to get paid. Because if you're buying the insurance together, you're buying the fuel together, you're buying meal packages together, you're doing all those things together, somebody's got
Right.
to pay the bills. So somebody's got to be on top of those things,
Oh, of
right?
course.
Who can then create the reports. But I would say you need an accountant person to reconcile the books to make sure everything is tracked.
100%.
You don't really need a CFO because you're not running a multi-million dollar organization that needs financial management. But
Right.
what I would say then is you take that power, and as I said back to the beginning, you go get technology, and you, as a team, you say, okay, what do we need to do? And how do we do that? Like, how can we build our own little intranet, right?
Yes,
We need to build
of
our
course.
own intranet and
And
then find ways
guys
to
have been
plug in our
doing that
clients.
for years. Well,
Sorry?
and guys have been doing that for since I've been in the business and a
Sure.
long time before that.
Yeah.
By truckers do that. We trade freight. So
Yeah.
when we're with LTL, you've got 10 extra skids going to Chicago, and you find out 10 o'clock on Friday night when you're loading trucks that you do not have room for that extra 10 skids because some bozo uh, loaded up 20 skids instead of 10, and the custom, you can't change the custom papers. So now you're scrambling. So you farm it out to another trucking company to get it done for you. And that's been happening for the last 50 years that I know of.
And that's where the intranet comes in, right? If you're running a regional group and one guy
Right,
says, "Hey, I can't make it," he sends it to the other nine. He says, "Hey, who here's over there? I am. Great,
right.
take it." Right? Now, the only part you all got to be, really in agreement on is where do the customers pay and who gets what. So you got to have
Right.
very clear-cut rules and contracts that says, here's how this thing is going to run,
Right.
right? That part I would agree entirely.
I've kind
But
of
I think
figured
you're
that
right.
out.
That few 10 people,
I've had 10 years. I've had 10 years to figure this out. And how I would do it is you have, you call it Cooperative Trucking Incorporated or Cooperative Trucking Cooperative Incorporated, whatever. And what happens is if the three of us are in there, You're truck one, Rico's truck two, I'm truck three. So it would be the bill goes out truck one, and they make the check out to truck one for for your load, and you somehow you have to be able to get that money back to that member of the co-op because it is his.
Well, I mean, if you do an incorporation, you now have shareholders and legals and all these issues. You got a lot of issues. I would say,
Co-op is a different.
you know,
It's a totally different beast. I've
okay,
dealt with one, and
okay,
they're a different animal. They come under a different. They're not a co-op. They're not a corporation. They're a co-op, and there's a different set of laws and rules and everything else. But I see this as a great thing. I know that we do it in the industry now with insurance. We do these things, which is really a cooperative insurance policy called captives. And I'm not suggesting that these small operators band together and get into a captive, because a captive is basically a self-insured policy. I haven't been
no,
convinced
no,
on
no,
those
you don't
yet.
do that. No,
No, I'm
no,
not.
but I like your idea. I think your idea is a good one of a cooperative. As I said, the future now belongs to disintermediation. The internet is a disintermediation tool. It is going to cut out all of the fat. So small operators, which is controllable in a region. And I remember a year ago, so we talked, and I said to you guys, I remember saying this very clearly, was that you got to know your cost. And if somebody
Right.
calls and says, "Do you want to take this load to California? I'll pay you $1," but you know your costs and your costs are $1.05, turn it down
Yep.
Yeah.
because running
Well,
a
you know,
5
it's
cent per
funny you
mile
say
loss
that,
doesn't
Michael.
pay you.
That's been happening so often where it's not even a nickel a mile they're losing. They're losing 30 or 40 cents a mile minimum, and sometimes a lot more. And that's the market we're in, because there are so many trucks, and there are more trucks than there is freight to put in
Well,
them.
Yeah,
check this out.
yeah.
Here's an article from Overdrive magazine talking about diesel prices. Diesel prices mostly negate recent declines, excepting reefers spot market rates failed to adjust. So diesel prices climbed after a 15 cents decline, with spot rates mostly flat on the revenue side. The average price of diesel fuel had declined through much of the first half of October, falling 15 cents over a 2-week period from the week of October 9th through October the 16th. During the most recent week, however, Energy Information Administration reported prices climbed to largely negate the last 2 weeks. During the week of October 23rd, the EIA reported a 10.1 cents increase in the national average price of diesel fuel per gallon. Spot market rates, meanwhile, according to FTR's Transportation Intelligence and truckstop.com, failed to adjust, accounting for the added cost of the average. But one bright spot in the reefer segment, which posted a 3 cents per mile boost on the revenue side. So knowing your cost, and like we always talk about, trying to be on top of it on a daily basis, which with diesel prices fluctuating at this rate, um, you gotta definitely be mindful of that. If you got a lot of people dealing on the spot market where you don't have a fuel surcharge per se built into the rates.
Yeah, I mean, so in a sense, now this is where the problem now lies, and this is how inflation impacts things. You have your price on Friday, you quote a price on Monday, you pick up on Wednesday, you bill on Sunday, and the price has gone up,
Yes. The price of fuel, but
right?
not the price of freight.
Right.
You got it.
So,
That's exactly
right.
because we live in a world where everything fluctuates except the rate.
Right.
We're not in lockstep. The price of freight is not in lockstep with the
Well,
price of fuel, because we bill,
ex-
sometimes we bill usually most carriers bill when they get back from the trip. So if you're running to California and
yeah.
you make your delivery and then you go back east, you don't bill your customer until you get home.
But I mean, what's going to happen now, and I think this is where this is where technology now is really both, can be an enemy as well as an ally, is that, information moves so fast. So a good example, recently, this is crazy, but the Uber style of surge pricing has now come to bars. So bars are
I
now
heard that.
adopting to surge pricing, right?
What?
Which
Yes.
kind of begs, yeah,
Yes.
oh yeah. So
Well,
you'll go there at
guys, think of
6 o'clock
this.
at night, and the beer is $5, and as you stay there longer, the beer is getting more expensive.
Right. But Michael, for the last 30 years that I know of, we've had happy hour.
Well, yeah, but this is different. This
And
is
that's
not the
kind of
bartender
surge
saying to you,
pricing, is it not?
no, no,
I
no,
know
no,
that.
no. What they're doing is something totally different. The system, the bar system is keeping track of demand. So it's not like 7 o'clock time to change the pricing. The bar is keeping track of demand. And if they start seeing an
Right.
acceleration, the till just starts to change the price
Right. No, I
Automatically.
get that part.
automatically. So,
As it
you
gets
know,
as
you,
it gets busier.
which is interesting because you guys have never adopted that. You guys don't have, I don't know if you guys have a Monday price, a Wednesday price, or a Friday price.
You
Our
know, if you
industry,
play the
our
spot
industry
market,
is so crazy, in my opinion. It really boggles my mind, and sometimes it's really difficult to even try to wrap your head around it because it's like you know, unfortunately, everybody's in a race to the bottom. Almost, it seems it's
Yes.
everybody wants it as cheap as they possibly can, and
well,
to
yeah, in
hell with
these
No,
times, you're right,
I
Rico.
gotta be, I gotta play the contrarian here, man. I gotta play the contrarian, Rico. It isn't that they want to play it, the people want it cheapest to the bottom. It's that you guys are willing to offer it to the bottom. It's not the demand, it's the supply is
Yes.
willing to accept the pricing.
I'll agree with that. That you got to. I think you have a lot of
Yes.
people. That's been the major problem. We have a lot of people that came into the industry that really don't understand trucking, and they're new and they're green, and they're willing to accept the lower prices. And then also you have some people that have gotten themselves over leveraged, and they don't have the luxury of trying to hold out for a higher price because they got a truck note that they become a slave to, that they have to try to continue to make a truck note on.
Yeah.
And
And you got
Unfortunately,
regulatory
Rico, they're
environment.
the same people.
yeah,
And you got a regulatory environment that absolutely will not allow you to run a truck that is subpar on maintenance. So you got a regulatory environment that absolutely insists you must have the following components in this truck, which is going to be at the highest cost of maintenance.
Yeah. And it's funny you say that, Michael, because in these times, people get desperate and they don't quite often when somebody is running a trip, and I wish they were just losing 5 cents a mile, but they're losing 40 and 50 and 60 cents a mile out of desperation. Like
Mhm.
one of our listeners just typed in, impatience is killing us. And he's right. You have people losing 50 cents every mile they're traveling, and they're doing 100,000 miles a year in a truck, and they're losing $50,000 a year. They don't have any money to maintain that truck.
right.
But you have a regulatory environment that nails them to the wall if they find out they didn't,
Well, of course, yeah,
right? So,
100%. But
and you can't.
these people's
That's why I
backs
say to
are
you,
up against. You know,
that
Unfortunately, the same people that are willing to do the work for free because they don't realize um, what the cost is are the same people that went out and bought a Freightliner Cascadia for $250,000 Canadian. These are the same people.
yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
that's what's creating this thing. And I think, and I heard from our guest last week, we have to cull the herd. That's
Here's
the,
another.
Well, I got to be honest with you, you're not going to be able to because there's 3.5 million truckers in the United States, 800,000 independent owners. Good luck. You're not going to be able to call the herd,
Some of them,
right?
yeah, but they're, you know what? They are falling off. Now, the only ones coming back in or new entrants we have are the men and women getting into the last mile delivery. And those are the people delivering Amazon parcels to your house. And if you buy a new refrigerator, they're going to deliver your fridge or your stove or whatever. That's final mile. They're coming in leaps and bounds because number one, you don't need a CDL or an AZ license, and you don't need a great big fancy truck. You can just use a little box van. They're coming into the industry, and that's
That's why I
fine.
said you got to find you have three components you cannot control. You can't control the price of diesel. You
Right.
can't control the cost of insurance, and you
Yep.
can't control the daily price.
That's
The only
right.
thing you have control over, the only thing you have control over is your costs. The only thing you
Well,
have
some of
control
them.
over is
I mean, your
some of them.
price.
And the only thing, right, and the only thing you have, so as I said earlier, technology allows you to automate a lot of those processes to stay in touch with clients all the time because you got this gap of you talk to your client on Monday and then either you wait for him to reach out for you or you reaching out for him too far down the lane
Right.
and somebody else has already gotten. So, if he's and remember, he's also searching for things too. So you sort
Right.
of have to stay in touch. Technology allows you to do that, to stay in touch with them repeatedly.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that, hey, it's Tuesday, hey, it's Thursday, hey, it's Wednesday. And technology will do that for you. You could
Oh
do it
yeah.
very,
You know what?
very cost effectively. Because really,
Technology is, and I'm a
yeah,
late adapter in some ways to some technologies, but when you look at the electronic logbook, it's phenomenal because you know what, you can't make any mistakes on it. The problem is the stupid laws surrounding the electronic logbook. The electronic logbook is a great invention.
yeah. I
You
mean,
know,
if you stay, because I don't believe that the logistics managers are perpetually looking for cheaper rates. For them, it's just like I got to get a load on Wednesday. I'll give a call to this guy, or I'll look on the board, or I'll do this, or I'll do that. But if you're top of mind, generally speaking, they're human beings. They're lazy
yeah, of
because
course.
they're not spending their money. They're spending somebody else's money.
Unless they're, you know what, smart companies reward employees for performance. And
That's
I
why
have
that's why there's so few. That's why there's so few smart companies.
That's right. And I have seen companies where the buyers get rewarded by getting better pricing. And that's a smart thing to do because that individual is the custodian of your money. You want him or her to have a vested interest in how your money is spent. And rather than call up any Tom, Dick, or Harry, when I have dealt with people like that, those SOBs will fight you for a nickel
Yeah, yeah.
because it's in their vested interest. What's in it for me? There's a lot in it for him. That's his bonus at the end of the year, or his profit share, or however they work it at that company. But I have seen it, and the best companies I've ever dealt with have been those that have profit sharing right through.
I mean, there's various ways of doing it, of building the loyalty. I think there's a variety of ways of doing it. But I would say to the people who are listening and to other truckers, you got to look at your business differently. You have to. You got to look at relationships differently, technology differently. You got to evolve if you want to be able to survive. Because of all the industries in the United States, I don't think there's any other industry that's as competitive as yours.
I'd have to agree. Well, you know what? Yeah, you're 100% right. It is highly, highly competitive, and
Because there's so many
we
people.
have, as you said, we don't have any control over anything.
Except your costs.
That's that's right.
Accept your costs. So, and it's not expensive, guys. For anybody listening tonight, as I said to you, you got to look, you're going out and you're buying $250,000 piece of equipment. So
Right.
why don't you invest $5,000 in technology?
Yeah. Yeah.
You,
Um,
you're buying a quarter, you know, you're $1 million business, but if you don't put at least 5 grand into your technology and you're not on top of the technology, you're going to lose out. You're going to be at the mercy.
Well, it makes things, you know what? It just making it, sending out an invoice. What you can do is sit at a typewriter and type it out. You know, you put in a system, and my God, you're right, Michael. When I look at how systems have become more complex and do a lot more and cost a hell of a lot less. Now, there's expensive systems that cost millions of dollars, but those are for multi-million-dollar companies. For the average truck operator that's operating 1 to 10 trucks, he or she doesn't have to spend a fortune.
Yeah. But I got to tell you something really interesting, because our back end runs on Zoho, and this is something I want to share with you guys, which I think you'll find interesting. So I run my company on my back end on Zoho, which is a CRM system out of India, and they are based in the United States as well. Now,
Right.
this CRM system, we do emailing campaigns and SMS campaigns out of it. So here's the part you guys are going to love. I would send an email to a client, and we can literally click the button and call right out of the system to the client. Okay. But
Right.
after a while, the system starts to tell me when's the best time to call the client.
Wow.
So if you think about the system, it's learning your clients.
That's
And
the
it will tell
AI
you,
component.
hey, Rico, it's Thursday, 4 p.m. Call this company.
Because you know that guy, or there's a better chance that guy is going to be there.
The system is tracking the communication. It
Right.
notices when they open the email. It notices when they respond to the text. It notices when they call you. And the
So
system is saying, Rico, it's Thursday. Call them.
So that's like the AI component built into the system.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's self-learning. And this,
I was
and by the way,
looking at
how much
I
Zoho
forget what
CRM
show it
account?
was, but they was talking about, like, they were showing a coffee shop, how the cameras in the coffee shop can tell which workers are doing the most work or whatever. Like it shows like
Yeah.
how many cups of coffee each employee was
Yeah.
actually making.
And you want to know something funny? You want to know how much a Zoho CRM system fully built is? $100 a month.
Really?
Yep.
Wow.
Then you
So it
hire a
makes
consultant online, and for like a couple of grand, constant contact is good. It is a good one, but get somebody to build in workflows into it. And once you get the workflows into it, which is really easy to do, basically they're gonna ask you, okay, what emails do you want to go out? What text do you want to go out? When do you want it to go out? And they start setting up the workflows, and the system is self-running, right? Now, you basically call out of the system. So I use a system called Twilio, and Twilio is basically they assign me a phone number, and I plug the phone number right into the CRM.
Right.
And for about 4 lines or 5 lines in the system, it's costing me like $100 a month in community. And that's because we're storing the conversations too. So by the way, these systems will store the conversations. So if you're talking to the client through the CRM system and he says, no, I didn't tell you to pick up Chicago. Hold on a second. Let me play the recording.
So do you have to say this call is being recorded for?
No.
Okay.
Well, why would you have to? It's like,
Well, because
pick
I
up in
noticed that
Chicago. He's not giving
when
you
I
your
phone,
wife's measurements.
yeah, but when I phone a company, quite often on hold, please notice that this call will be recorded.
Yeah, they tell you that all the time.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah, but it's not a legal issue. Basically, for you, it's a quality control issue. But these systems will self-learn, and they're very inexpensive. You just want to be able to find somebody though to build, and that's why a lot of people, as I said, you got to invest a little bit of money. So you go get yourself somebody who knows constant contact, or they know Zoho. You say, listen, I need to build some workflow into this. Can you help me build a workflow? And they're going to ask you, okay, when do you want to communicate with your clients? How do you want to communicate with your clients? Do you want to have a texting system built in? We'll connect it to your emails. So this way, it will connect it to your calendar too. By the way, it is illegal. Not really. It's not really a legal requirement to someone who's commenting. It's a legal requirement to advise.
He's a
It's
lawyer.
not a legal.
He's a big lawyer. She might know something, and obviously
Yeah,
she
I agree.
does.
No, I understand that. But again, if you want to say it, by the way, you're welcome to say it. I mean, that's fine. I don't give a damn. You can say that you're recording it, and that nobody's going to care, right? Uh,
Right.
but it's only be telling what I'm going to use it in a court of law. I'm going to use it against you. Okay, but you're doing it so that there's no misunderstandings with your client, right? because your claims are not for a $50,000 freight bill. They're like for a $2,000 freight bill, and nobody's going to spend $100,000 on a lawyer to go claim
Or it
2,000.
could be, but it could be $100,000 freight claim where a customer says to you, in the
Listen,
trucking business, customer said
you know your
the dry
business,
load doesn't need heat. Turns
you
out
know your
you load
business
it.
better than me. You know, I tell this to my team all the time. I can't run my company on exceptions. I have to run it on rules. So I
Yep.
got to build business rules and run the company on
Yes,
business
100%.
rules, not exceptions. I can go down the goddamn rabbit hole and I'll be taking magic mushrooms in Australia to avoid a litigation in Pittsburgh. I have no idea. Okay.
They're not nice to rabbits there. I don't think you want to do
Yeah.
that.
Please remember, you hire lawyers because lawyers are naturally paranoid. That's their job. Their job is to be paranoid. So I can't run my company on paranoia, or as my brother said to me, even paranoid people have organized enemies.
So I was, and I just wanted to get back over as well. There's another article here. We talked about the diesel prices and everything, but also carriers took a beating in August as trucking conditions deteriorate. Kind of going back to the economy a little bit. The trucking conditions look back. 2023 hit a low in August. It's likely no surprise to owner operators and fleets that August was not a good month for most of us in the trucking business. During the month, FTR and Associates conditions, the index fell 12.54 percentage points, down significantly from July's of 5.34. So it's a very sharp drop in decline, and it's all going back to the economy. It was probably one of the softest economies that we probably had since probably dating back to 08.
Yeah, but that's not a shocker. We've been talking about it. I said rates are going to rise.
Yeah.
Nothing shocking about this.
No, we predicted that. You know what? Because the three of us have been around a long time, we knew that the winter was coming. Okay, even though we had a long summer, people got used to it. They got used to getting crazy rates of $5-6 a mile. It wasn't going to
Yeah,
stay.
but that's what I'm saying is that look, you guys are in a business where it's cutthroat because there's so many players in the business.
Right.
So you got to put some effort into it. Yes, you're a commodities trading floor. But as I said, I mean, technology will, a lot of it can really ameliorate this stuff. And if the system is set up automated, you know what? Just automate it, automate it, calling clients, automate the damn thing, and you'd be amazed. Your clients will start reaching out to you because they have a job to do. They're not going to stop at 4 o'clock to start calling around. Whoever's there is the one they're going to take.
Right. Good point.
Right? They got a job to do, right? They got their regular pickups, but then there's always stuff happening that need stuff taken away.
But yeah, that's the big one. It's the
Yeah.
exceptions.
Yeah.
That
Where's the economy going to impact? I think the funny part is, and let's look at the employment numbers in the United States. Okay. I love how the news media is saying the economy is terrible. You guys have 3.5% unemployment.
Yeah, because there's nobody working, Michael. We have to stop using that matrix. It's ridiculous. We've got a
They're
whole
working.
bunch of people my age that have stopped working in the last 5 years. We've
Yes.
got a bunch of students that don't want to do dirty work because they've been trained. God bless them, but they've been trained for jobs where there are no jobs. And they don't want to get their hands dirty and hurt their backs because they want to be like their friend or their relative that was making $250,000 a year when they got out of university. Those jobs aren't readily available anymore.
Who's making $250,000 out of university? I want to go work
Yeah,
for
there
them.
were people, and they went to work for people like Google and all the rest of them, and and lived a good life. Those jobs they've dried up.
Yeah, but
And they were
I
spending
mean, the
money.
economy changes.
Yes, of
The
course. And those
economy
people
changes. Yeah.
stopped spending money. They no longer have Amazon come to their door 5 times a day while they're
No, now
buying
it's
stuff.
coming by a drone.
Not yet.
Yeah, it did. Actually, just did. They have actually launched their drone service.
Okay.
Amazon's been cleared to launch their drone service. I think I just read it the other day.
So I know
Amazon
in
drones.
California, there's something else that I've seen that they're trying to propose a rulemaking out there to clear the way, which is another big thing
Sorry,
on
my
the show that
mistake.
they've been trying to clear the
FAA
way
cleared UPS.
for the automated
Yeah,
trucks.
no, the FAA has cleared UPS drones.
Mm.
It's only a matter of time. The technology is there. They're going to all start using it for certain things.
Yeah, but I mean, they're going to continue using robots and other things. But the one thing that still needs a human being is still going to be a truck,
I totally agree. You can call
right?
that truck
Until they,
driver,
at least for the next 20, 30 years.
yeah, maybe
Yeah,
longer.
that's why I say they got a rulemaking that I've seen a news article today. As a matter of fact, they're trying to clear legislation in California to begin rolling out the rules surrounding the automated trucks. And I think that it's going to be a pushback because you're still going to have an operator in that truck regardless. Because I don't think that the technology is going to be able to account for just the randomness of what happens behind the wheel of a truck.
Yeah, yeah, it will.
Yeah, you know what?
You,
And I've said
you,
that
you'd
all
be
along.
you'd be amazed. You're going to be amazed how fast the computing power is increasing. I was listening to this interview with the head of Microsoft, the CEO of Microsoft, and they had just taken over uh, the company that created chatbot GPT, right? They
Right,
had invested in it, then they took it over, and he was really surprised because he looks at his feed one day
right.
and there's a messaging in his feed. I can't remember if it was Twitter or whatever it was, and it was from the head designer and programmer for Tesla self-automating. Okay, Tesla self-automating division, who said he used Microsoft Microsoft's own AI code creating system for 80% of the code, meaning he didn't even have programmers writing the code. He had the computers writing the code for 80% of the code. That's a massive amount of code. And he's
Yeah.
like, even he was like, oh my God, like the computers are writing code. So the idea of the technologies, I don't think it's 50 years. I think you're looking at a point where, in 20 years' time, they're going to start rolling it out in smaller areas first, then expand it out like that.
You know what? I still cannot get my head around sending
You don't
a,
have to.
but I can't imagine driving a truck over here to the 401 highway, getting out of the truck, putting it into gear or putting it into drive, getting out of the truck and waving goodbye to my tractor and trailer, and it's going to Windsor. There's no way, man. That just, I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah. I wish it didn't, but yeah,
You know
yeah.
what?
They're
One
gonna,
of our listeners, Landis Farms, he says 50 years plus. I'm with him. Now, I think it works great, and I've gone on record. I think the idea in a controlled environment, like a rail yard, I think it will work right now. But I think the stuff I see out there on the highways, the erratic driving, the untrained drivers, all the
Right.
rest of it, I just can't see it. And we're depending on sensors. It just doesn't. It does not make it
well, hold on a
doesn't make
second.
sense.
Sensors plus rocket launchers and machine guns will do a lot to keep people away from your truck. So it's like, you come near me, mother, I'm gonna have this RPG up your tail, get away from me.
No, I feel that way sometimes driving on the 401 highway with, I'm trying to keep my distance and these guys cut in front of me and all
Yeah,
sorts of
yeah.
crazy stuff,
It's gonna
racing
have
and
no
all
effect.
sorts. I guess if everybody on the road followed the rules of the road, we could have this technology working tomorrow. But and I think most truck drivers are pretty damn good. 70, at least 75% of the crashes that trucks are involved in are not the fault of the truck. It's the fault of the four-wheeler.
So I'm looking at the time as well. And I'm trying to switch gears a little bit, just to kind of cover as much as we possibly can while we got Michael on here. And Michael, kind of going back to the economy, and a lot of people, you got some analysts now I tell you, they change every about every month themselves. I watch CNBC and different things, and now it looks like you got more people that are leaning on the side of we actually may be headed for a slight recession for the United States.
Well, there's a couple of funny things I have to say about that. Adam Smith was the creator of modern economics, and he said
Right.
the only difference between me and you about talking about the economics is my guess is just a little better than yours. Uh, and remember, a recession is when my neighbor loses a job. A depression is when I lose my job. All
Right.
right.
It's true.
So, do I think that there's going to be a derailment? No. Do I think the economy is going to slow down? It all depends on two factors, and this is now really, it's become in the last 15 years since the 2008 collapse of a dog chasing its tail. Okay, so the government pours a ton load of capital into the markets, like
Yeah.
massive amounts. Then they spent the last year and a half. The reason why it's the rates are going up is the government is now sopping up all the cash. Okay.
Right.
But at the same time as they're sopping up all the cash, the world has slightly changed. So now
Right.
the dog has caught its tail and it's eating it too.
Right.
So there is so much government spending, and the government spending is accounting for a huge percentage. Like, I got to be honest with you, we're Canadian. Effectively, Canada's now a socialist country. Why? Over 50% of the economy is now directly and indirectly driven by government spending.
Mm.
And I think the United States now is approaching, I may be mistaken, I'll have to look it up, but I think it's close to like 42 or 43% of the US economy is now driven by either directly or indirectly by government spending one way or the other. And you've got
Yeah,
a $2 trillion deficit this year.
yeah, it's outrageous. It's outrageous.
That's the big killer.
Right. And then you got other problems. Forget the housing problems. Everybody keeps talking about the housing problems. No, no, no. Your big problem is the student loan problem. That is bigger than the mortgage problem of 2008.
Yeah.
Well, and I know that I read something else. I think it might have been CNBC as well. That this is the time that where more people are behind on their car notes than ever in
Oh
history.
yeah. Yes.
Rates are going up. And again, somebody's telling me one of the comments is government waste. I said, let me tell you, government waste is when they send benefits to my next door neighbor. Assholes is when they stop sending it to me.
Oh.
Right? So
So
we
so so so
and,
so the long and short is you don't want to be Mike's neighbor.
you know what I mean? But I mean, so I think what's going to happen next is, look, student loans are back on the table one way or the other. We're not even going to get into the government, which right now is no speak for 3 weeks. And you're like, mind you, the U.S. has never run better. Uh, Without a government, you guys are really doing well. Keep it up. They can't. Hey, Landis, good news. They can't waste money. There's no one there.
Yeah, they can't do any appropriations without a speaker.
Yeah,
Exactly. So I mean, it's there's going to be tailwinds, but I think it's going to move fast. Like, things are going to change very fast in different areas, as you say,
they
week to
do.
week.
You know what? But things
Um,
in the last 5 years have changed really fast. In the last 10 years, we're going
yeah,
faster and faster.
like, here's the interest. But we started this on technology. So let's get
Right.
this interesting. The writer strike, the screenwriter strike in Hollywood was about
Mhm.
AI technology.
Yes.
Right.
The car, oh, thank you, honey. The car strikes is also about technology. Thanks, honey. The car strikes is also about technology, right? You have 2,000 parts that make up a motorized car. You only have 18 parts to make up a battery-powered car.
Yes.
So as much as they're fighting for, and also the question becomes is how much of that car can now be built by computer,
Yes. Good point.
right? So the value add is the issue. you guys, whoever listening tonight, truckers, you still, at least for the next 20, 30 years, you still have a value add, just like the plumber, because somebody's got to steer that wheel.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
So
that,
you're lucky for the next 20, 30 years. Just get smarter.
yeah.
Just
You
get
know what's
smarter.
funny? At that, I volunteered a few months back it was in July at a teachers conference for Next Gen Truckers. I manned the booth, and one of the things, a lot of educators came to see us. We were pretty much the darling of the trade show part of the conference, and one of the things that brought the educators to our booth was the fact that their students could graduate high school, get involved, whether they're working at a trucking company in the shop or in the office or loading trucks, whatever. But at 18 years old, get involved, and at 21, legally without any problem, get trained to do interstate. And by the time they're 21, 22 years old, can be earning close to, in today's dollar and 2023's dollar, close to somewhere between $60,000 and $100,000 a year with no student debt.
Yeah.
And that was their big concern for these teachers, was the amount of
Sorry, can you hear me?
student debt their students would have to take on in order to go to post-secondary school and become,
So we
a
lost audio.
lawyer or architect.
Rico, can you hear me?
Or
Yes.
Okay, I can't hear you good.
Yeah,
Can
we
you hear
got
me,
you,
Mike?
Mike.
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
As I was saying, one of the big things was people could go into the trucking industry and start earning $100,000 at 21, 22 years old with no student debt at all.
Yeah. So the times have changed.
Yeah.
Times have changed. So anybody listening tonight, get smarter. Invest in some technology. And by the way, and this is an interesting point. Do you really, this is just a question. Does every trucker need a 53 footer?
That's what he or she is doing.
That's the point. Again, if you track your system and you realize, wait a minute, 70% of the time I'm only using 20 feet of my trailer. What the hell do I have a 53 footer for?
Yeah. Good point. That's a great point.
Right. You got to find ways to cut those things that you don't need, and you cut out the lanes. So look, I'm that kind
There's
of
no
guy.
fat in this, Mike. There's zero fat, especially right now operating a trucking company. You've got to make as
It's
my
not that they're
father
fat.
was.
It's not that they're fat. They're inefficient.
Well, that's fat. Fat is
No,
inefficiency.
no, not the same thing. Inefficiency in your case is if you don't know your cost per mile, you don't know where you're making the most amount of profit on which mile, you don't know if you're using the right equipment, you don't know if you're buying the right equipment, you could slice a ton load of money out of your business.
100%. And to
Right?
me,
And it's
that's
not
fat. Now we call it. It's the same thing. It's inefficiency.
okay, it's inefficiency, but that's what I'm saying to you. If you track the data and you
Yeah.
get a couple of things, you could probably squeeze 10, 20, 30% more profit out of your business.
Maybe. You know what?
But
If you
remember,
did
Chuck,
things,
with
if you
due
did things
respect,
better.
Chuck, but you're speaking as a guy who ran a large company. Your
Yeah.
days of being the small guy is long gone.
But you know what? I still, even though we were a billion-dollar company, I still looked at areas where we could always be more efficient. Where you only, little things like try to train yourself. A piece of paper hits your desk once. Little things, because when people keep playing with the same piece of paper, that's costing the company a lot of money.
Right.
And you get
But
500 people keep playing with the same piece of paper. Just you get something, deal with it, and move on with it.
right. But
And
that's
things
you
like
running a
that.
company. But if I'm looking at a guy who's running 10, 5, 10 trucks, if
They got to
he's
think the same way, though. They've got to be efficient.
yeah, but efficiency means, are you using the right equipment?
Yeah,
Because the equipment
100%. Are you getting? You know what? Are you getting? Do you have a truck that gets 5 miles per gallon when
right,
you should be getting 8 or 9? Like, come on! I know you like
right,
driving that big old fancy Peterbilt. Put it in a bloody museum,
right. But
or
also,
plug it
but
right
if
in
you
your
have
house.
but if you're running a 28 footer instead of a 53 footer, you're going to use less fuel.
Possibly, yeah.
right? If you find out that you're losing 10 cents a mile going to California, but you're making 10 cents a mile more going to Georgia, then say no to
Start going to
California.
Georgia.
Go around, go right.
100%. And and that's something Rico and I have always talked about is chasing that spot market because it's all over the place. Run a steady lane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
that gives you efficiency too. Now all of a sudden, you're not going to have those expenses when you break down unexpectedly. In California somewhere you don't know anyone, and all of a sudden you're at somebody's mercy for a tire. Where I remember 25 years ago, or longer than that, 30 years ago, on a Sunday morning, I had to buy a used tire for $800 because one of our drivers blew a tire at the side of the road somewhere in Utah, and conveniently they didn't have any tires around that place in Utah that would fit. Not a tire shop though. Didn't have any 11/22/5s. I couldn't believe it. But you know what? We needed a tire.
Yep.
So we had to pay it. And those sorts of stories happen they happen countless times a day. Towing, there's another thing. If you ever talk to anybody that, God forbid, needs to get towed off an interstate, the prices, because especially if you're not in the area, the same area, and they know you're from out of state. It's just those things. There's a comment here. Rico said years ago about the dumbbell lane, and he was right on. Yeah, he is right. You go back and forth between 2 points. That's how you make money in the trucking business. It's not rocket science. People keep trying to reinvent it, and it doesn't work. It's real easy to do. The market is hard, but you can survive if you do exactly one of the things you said, Michael, is be efficient.
Yeah.
Try to be as efficient as possible. If you don't mind, Michael, before I'm looking at the time. It's getting we close up on it. It just goes by when we get on here.
Wow,
And
does it ever?
Bantering back and forth. If you don't mind, Michael, give us those platforms again that you were telling us about that might be able to help us out with.
One of them is
automating.
one of them is Zoho, ZOHO, which is it's been around 20 plus years.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an Indian company. It's been around a long time. It's used by a lot of small businesses because it's really inexpensive and really easy to set up. And if you go to Upwork.com,
Yep.
you can find a ton of Zoho developers, like tons of them. And the great part about these guys, by the way, and please don't misunderstand me, people, I'm going to say a lot of them are from India, so they're very inexpensive.
Because they're working in India, correct?
Right.
Well, but a lot of the consultants, all that, are from India, independent companies, that when you contact them, hey, I need this done or this done or this done, but lay out your vision first on a paper as to what you want your systems to do. And remember,
Right.
it's about communicating with your clients. It's not about marketing. If you want to do marketing, you can do marketing, but you just want to find a way to communicate with your roster of clients on a regular basis. And you want to do automation, workflow automation, repeat emails, repeat text, repeat things to keep getting in touch with customers. Then I use Twilio. It just spells the way it is, Twilio, which is basically an online VoIP system that will plug right into the Zoho, and now you got a full blown communication system in and out. So you can literally record the phone number. You'll see a little green button. Press the green button, and it dials right out of your computer. You put your headset on. You talk to your customer. Then make your notes, and off you go. But you got to start doing these CRM tasks a lot because you want to be able to predict your client's behavior ahead of time. And if you keep doing this on a regular basis, you'll begin to collect data on your clients. You'll know when they're shipping, why they're shipping, where they're shipping, how much you charged them last time. Very important. You can start recording what you billed them at different times.
Right.
Sometimes you call a restaurant, they go, "Oh, Michael, yeah, you ordered the pepperoni last time. Do you want the same one?" Not rocket science.
Yep. Yep. Well, Michael, and also before we get out of here, if people wanted to shoot you an email or pick your brain a little bit further, how can they get
Yeah.
in contact with you?
Well, I work at a consulting firm called Do We Piss 'Em Off and How? Uh, you can, you can reach me at michael.lampel@gmail.com. Happy to answer your questions. My consulting firm only takes referrals from pissed off customers.
Well, we appreciate it again, Michael. Michael was so gracious enough to jump in here and pinch hit for us. Like I said, we had David Owen was scheduled to come on with us, and something unfortunately came up on his end, and Michael was so gracious enough to come and jump in the catbird seat for us this evening and kind of get us squared away here. So with that being said, Michael, we appreciate you for being so gracious with your time. Chuck, let the people know how they can get a hold of you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, if anybody needs me, just send me an email with your phone number to chucksnow280@outlook.com, and I'll call you back and help you with anything you need. And with that, Rico, I'll let you back her in a hole for another week.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate you guys. You guys are the cog in the machine, the reason why we do the show. We appreciate you guys for tuning in and listening. If you would, give us some homework assignment. Give us some feedback on some things and topics that you would like for us to try to go out and cover. And we'll try and do our best to go out and find a guest or someone to come back on or hell, just call Michael back up and put him back in the seat and let him talk about whatever it is that you guys
Why can I talk?
Let him talk about whatever it is that you guys got for us. But no, in all seriousness, give us a little bit of feedback, give us a little homework, tell us some things that you would like for us to kind of cover, and we'll do our best to try to go out and get some information or get someone to come on and discuss it with us. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we want to say to you guys, stay safe out there, stay healthy. God bless you and good night. Keep it in between the mustard and mayonnaise, and we'll talk at your same time, same place.
Yes, Rico, all the best, Chuck.
Thank you.
Catch on flip flop. God bless.